What up? In the last episode of Game of Thrones, we saw the Siege of Casterly Rock, and although not much of the actual battle was shown, I still found some things that I want to mention, because that's what I do on this channel. I shit on things that you guys love. For some reason. Also, spoilers, obviously. So with that being said and without further ado, let's begin the Siege of Casterly Rock.
Cersei believes my sole purpose in life is to destroy House Lannister. She will be ready. No one has ever taken the rock. The Lannister army is still the army my father built.
So right in the beginning you see these archers step up like a little bench or stool or something right at the edge of the wall, and that is weird. Because these things, or merlons as they're called, they are there to provide cover for the archers. And by stepping up a step, you are getting rid of all of that cover. Now, on the other hand though, the Unsullied army doesn't have any archers. Maybe it does in the books, I'm not sure. But as they are portrayed in the show, the Unsullied do not have any archers whatsoever. So you could argue that they don't need the cover. But still though, why would they have benches or stools or something ready for the archers to step up on? Because that takes away all the effectivity of the defenses that this wall has. Normally, the archers would take cover behind the merlons and shoot in between the crenelles, which is the openings. But in this case, I guess that's not the case, for some reason.
Well-trained and well-provisioned, 10,000 men at least. They will see us coming. They will be ready. The gates of Casterly Rock are impregnable.
So you see the Unsullied rush forward and put up the ladders. Now, here's something I want to say. First off, you see them climb up the ladders carrying their spears, which makes sense because it's their primary weapon, but climbing up a ladder holding a spear is a pain in the ass. It's really difficult, it's not very practical. It would make more sense for them to use their daggers or short swords that they have as primary weapon in this case. Because climbing up a ladder with a spear is difficult. But better yet, there's something that I don't understand is why do they use ladders? Alright, why don't they use a siege tower? Because Casterly Rock doesn't have a moat, so they could roll a siege tower up against the wall and that would automatically take full advantage of the thing that the Unsullied is strong at, are good at, and that's formations. Right? If you would have a siege tower, you could have Unsullied already at the top of the tower, whilst pushing the tower towards the wall. The tower would provide protection against arrows, and as soon as the tower would reach the wall, the Unsullied could already be in a shield formation. Also, the tower would provide protection for other Unsullied that want to climb up, or you could make some sort of construction that the inside of the tower would have stairs rather than ladders, making it easier to climb up using your spear. But even if you would use ladders, then you would be protected by the tower. So it's less dangerous, less casualties. It would make a lot of sense for the Unsullied to use a siege tower. And even if they don't use a siege tower, then still there are other stuff that you can use to protect yourself against arrows. You could use like mantlets, which are like freaking screens sort of, that protect against arrows at a distance, or you could use a gallery or a tortoise, which is a tortoise should not be confused with a testudo. Now a testudo was a formation, a shield formation, but a tortoise was a wooden construction that you would either on wheels or that you just have to lift up, that was there to protect you against archers and falling rocks and stuff like that. So now you might also say, well, Jelly, they didn't have time for that because they just attacked as soon as they arrived or something like that, which I find a bit strange because usually you also make the ladders on scene, right, during the siege, but it is possible that they took the ladders with them on their siege and, you know, on the boats and stuff. But to that I will say, they came by ship. And what does a ship have? Rowboats. You use the rowboats to get to shore. They could have used the rowboats as cover by holding them upside down above their heads. Even if they didn't have a siege tower, here's what I think they should have done. The bulk of the forces of the Unsullied should have stayed at a fair distance, taking cover behind potentially mantlets or something if they didn't have anything, then just their shields, but a mantlet is better than nothing. Right? You couldn't cover all of the Unsullied, but a fair bit at least. Then, small groups of Unsullied should take their ladders and their upside-down boats for cover and march towards the wall. No running, no sprinting, no unnecessary tiring, just march. Right? And they would be covered by the boats. Now, when they're at the wall, they lift the ladders up the wall, the Unsullied can climb up. And as soon as some of the Unsullied are up, because climbing up the ladder is still going to be difficult and dangerous, of course, but as soon as some Unsullied reach the top of the wall, all of a sudden the archers are occupied. They have to either engage in melee combat or just leave and leave the melee combat to others. But in any case, the Unsullied are, from that point on, safe from arrow fire. Right? Because there are no archers at the wall anymore, because there's now melee combat at the wall. So as soon as some Unsullied reach the top of the wall, all the other Unsullied can just rush forward without minding protection as much, and without being hit by arrows. It would limit the casualties so much, just by using the boats and holding them upside down for cover. Also, to prove my point that climbing up a wall with a spear is difficult, most of the Unsullied that you see fall down the ladders are not actually holding spears. So yeah, most likely safety purposes, but just mentioning it.
It was a passage that began in an out-of-the-way cove by the sea and ended beneath one of the main guard towers. No better place for low pursuits than beneath the ground. Casterly Rock is an impregnable fortress. But as a good friend of mine once said, give me 10 good men, and I'll impregnate the bitch. And so it begins.
So then Grey Worm and a small group, like a handful of Unsullied, enter through a secret passage and open the gate. Now this is very reasonable, it's very, very good tactic, and it was done in history. But there's something that I don't understand, and that is they opened the main gate, right? And they slit some throats to get there, but just some throats. Now, as soon as Grey Worm opens the gate, the Unsullied just rush in, they flock in, meaning they were there, in front of the gate. That is where the fighting is going on, and that is supposedly where the Lannisters are defending. Now, Tyrion does say that the gates of Casterly Rock are impregnable.
The gates of Casterly Rock are impregnable.
But nothing is 100% impregnable. Like, there is a threat of the dragons just crashing the gates down, providing a path for the Unsullied, right? It makes sense that there's some defenses in front of the gate, even if the gate is impregnable. And you could say, well, there is some defenses. There are like 2 people that they have to slit the throat of, but, you know, I don't buy it. Is there nobody that saw them? Like, it would have made sense if it was a side entrance, right? But no, it seems like the main gate. This is where the fighting is going on, and the handful of Unsullied has basically no trouble just getting there and opening the gate. There's nobody there to stop them or ring the alarm or whatever. And as the Unsullied flock in, you see one dead guy lying on the ground there, and then they go around the corner, and all of a sudden, what do they meet? Boom! Lannister forces, a whole bunch of them. What were those Lannisters doing there? Just standing around, right? I mean, they were just standing around the corner, and then Grey Worm was just able to go in with no trouble and open the gate. Why weren't they in front of the gate? What were they doing there? Like, you could also say that they were further in the castle, and that it's a cutscene, but it's not actually around the corner, right? But then still, what were they doing somewhere in the middle of the castle just waiting? Why weren't they where the action is? Why weren't they defending the frickin' gate? Or the wall, at least, you know, something where the fighting is going on. It makes no sense for there to be so many troops in front of the gate and nobody on the opposite side of the gate. That just doesn't make sense.
They will face the bulk of the Lannister forces. They will be outnumbered. They will have less armor and fewer weapons.
What do you mean they have fewer weapons? I mean, okay, less armor, I get that because they wear this weird, kinky leather outfit. It's not that great. But every Unsullied has a spear, a dagger or short sword or something, and a shield. So every soldier has his weapons. Same with the Lannisters. Like, you don't need 2 swords per soldier. You don't need 2 bows per soldier. So, what do you mean less weapons? As a side note, how did this guy die? Did he get hit by the crossguard or something? This guy dies even though the spear stops before it hits him. This guy dies from shield bash to the chest whilst he's wearing armor. I mean, don't get me wrong, surely that would hurt and it potentially might even break some bones, but the shields of the Unsullied are not particularly large and heavy. They actually are quite thin, and the way he is swinging them around, how fast they are swinging them around, would indicate that they are also quite light. And a shield bash like that, it would hurt, but you won't all of a sudden drop to the ground like that. I mean, I have been hit in the chest with shields before, and I'm still kicking. So, okay. And this guy just decided to give up on life and do a belly flop instead, it seems. Spears are not that useful in narrow spaces. But luckily for this guy, the Lannisters only attack 1 by 1, giving him enough time to turn around and do his fancy, unnecessary spear twirls. And that's the end of the battle. They cut to the Lannister forces marching, which, as a side note, I would like to mention that I don't hope that they march like that for the entire way, because that would be very tiring. Those tiny steps. Just so many incredibly tiny steps. Inching along. That's not an effective way to march. So that's about all I wanted to say. If you stuck around this long, you might as well subscribe, and also follow me on social media. Links are in the description below, and thank you for joining my quest, and I hope you'll join me in the next one. Bye, guys.